everyone and welcome to the second video about making Marie Antoinette's dress. This ensemble has two pieces, a petticoat and a bodice. In this video I will focus on assembling the dress itself and I'm going to share the process of making with all of you. So let's start with the petticoat. This garment is quite simple. It consists of three pieces, one piece to make up the front and two pieces to make up the back. I made the front part 150 cm wide and the back part 75 cm wide. The length on the skirt I chose according to my height. For the petticoat I needed 3 meters of blue cotton brocade. I originally wanted to use the right sides of the fabric, but it seems to me too shiny, so I finally decided to use the wrong side of the fabric, which was more matte. Finally, I cut out 10 cm wide and 150 cm long strip for the waistband. I sewed the front and the back side seams with using a French seam. You can use a back stitch, but French seam is a good way of creating a lovely and neat finish to your garment. Before sewing the back seam of the back, I measure out 15 cm from the top of the petticoat. This part will be open. The rest will be sewn with the back stitch. Then I folded the fabric of the opening over in itself to wrong side 2 times. And I sew it with whip stitches. After I finished the opening part of the petticoat, I began pleating the waistline. I used knife pleats, which are folds of fabric that are pressed in one direction on the right side of the fabric. And then I save all pleats on the sewing machine. The petticoat will require a lot of material. I pin the waistband over the top of the petticoat with right side facing each other and I sew it on. I left 20 cm of the waistband hanging off for either side, which will form ties. Then I folded the waistband inward and I sew it down with whip stitches. The last step was making the bottom hem of the petticoat. I turned up the bottom edges of the petticoat to the wrong side and then I pin and sew the hem down with using whip stitches. Now was the petticoat done. I set it aside and I began making the bodice. For bodice, I needed 1 meter of fabric. First, I cut out all bodice pieces and in the next step, I pin and then sew all pieces together at sewing machine, except of the part of the shoulder seam. I split the front part in half and the half I planned in the front I cut out from the lining fabric. I did all this because this part will have lacing on the front and it will be hidden under the brocade stomacher. Of course, you can also make it from brocade, but it is too stiff and it would be difficult for you to make holes for lacing. I press the seam allowances open and I iron them. Then I sew the front and the back of the bodice at the shoulders. I sew the sleeve at sides and then I sew on the sleeve to the armhole opening. I'm never really looking forward to sitting on the sleeve, but this time they fit me nicely in the armhole. The bodice is lined with the creamy cotton. I cut out all lining pieces and then I sew all pieces with right sides together at sewing machine, except of the shoulder parts. I pin and then sew a bone casing on the front and back. And in the next step, I sew down the seam allowances to create the bone casing at size of the bodice. I use a cotton ribbon for tunnels. After that, I inserted the bones. The casing will be set on the inside of the lining, so they will not be visible. Now I sew the bodice at shoulders and then I sew on the sleeve to the armhole opening. With the right sides together, I pin and then sew the lining and the bodice together at the neckline and at the bottom edge. After that, I clipped the seam allowances where it was necessary, and then I turned the bodice inside out, ensuring that all the edges are flat. The front part, which will be hidden under the stomacher, I sewed together with the lining on the sides with using whip stitches. After that, I sewed the bottom edge of the sleeve and the lining together with using whip stitches. Then I made the eyelets for threading a cord through on each side of the front position approximately 2 cm from the front edge. I marked the eyelets with a water-soluble pen and I used whip stitches around the edges of each hole until the raw edges were covered by thread. After that, I inserted the thread. Now the bodice was done, I set it aside and I set it to make a stomacher. I pinned a bone casing on the wrong side of the stomacher lining, and in the next step I sewed the bone casing and then I inserted the bones. After that, I pin and then sewed the lining and brocade part of the stomacher with right sides together, leaving the top of the stomacher open for turning the bodice inside out. After I turned the stomacher inside out, I sewed together the raw edges of the top with using whip stitches. To ensuring that all edges are flat, I sewed down the all raw edges of the stomacher on the sewing machine. You don't have to worry about the stitches going to be visible, because the stomacher will be covered with lace. And now comes the most fun part for me, lace decorating. The dress is decorated with lace on the neckline, sleeves and the stomacher. On the right at the beginning, I have to say that I needed a lot of lace, I think about 15 meters. First, I sew on 2 cm wide lace around the neckline with using small running stitches. And then I pick up this 5 cm wide lace that I was planning to make box pleats and to attach to the neckline and the sleeves. The box pleating is a common decoration technique of 18th century gowns. It's entirely up to you whether you pin the folds directly on the garment or use an iron to create the pleats. Then I continued, and with the same technique I create lace folds all over the sleeve up to the point about 5 cm from the bottom edge. All folds I sew on at the top and bottom of the lace with using small running stitches. Then I pick up 7 cm wide lace to create the last 2 lace rows on the sleeve. Again, I made box pleating on the lace, and with using running stitches, I sew on these 2 lace rows with straight edges facing each other on the bottom edge of the sleeve. One row of lace will protrude over the bottom edge of the sleeve. I underlay the row of lace that will protrude with the same lace, so it wouldn't be so translucent. And now let's take a look at the stomacher. The top of the stomacher I decorated with the same technique and lace as the neckline of the dress, so the transition between the neckline and the stomacher was not so visible. Then I gathered the lace, and according to my imagination, I pin and then sew on the lace over the stomacher. After that, I cut a cotton blue lace, and according to picture, I sew on the lace on the stomacher. The last step was making a triple loop bow which will be attached to the bottom edge of the sleeve. I cut 3 roughly 20 cm long pieces of satin ribbon and I made 3 loops. I joined the edges of the ribbon with pin. I put 2 loops in across and then I put the last one straight in the middle and I separated all loops together with the pin. Then I sewed it with running stitches and I gathered the center of the bow. I twisted the thread over the folded part in the middle to keep all pieces together. After I finished the bow, I sewed it to the bottom edge of the sleeve. Finally, I sewed these blue stone earrings into the middle of the bow. When you look at the picture, you'll see that there is something like a brooch with the blue stone at the center middle of the bow. Marie Antoinette has the same jewel in her portrait in her ears. And tada, we are done! I complemented the finished dress with a choker necklace which I made from velvet ribbon, lace and white pearls, earrings with blue stone and hair decoration. I'm really happy how the dress looks like, and first time I look at myself in the mirror, I feel like Marie Antoinette. So that's all for today. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate your nice comments and your likes always make me happy. If this is your first time on this channel, you can subscribe my channel to see more of my videos. Thank you and bye!